The new Dell Inspiron.
January 11th, 2008. The day in the year that this laptop that we're going to be looking at today was released, and that laptop of course is the Dell Inspiron 1525. So upon release, they also included a lot of other colors that you can choose from, but the one that I have is going to be in the black and gray colorway. And this specific Inspiron 1525 is actually one that I've had since 2008. So not including computers that I would use at school or at friends' houses, this actually was one of the first computers that I ever really used frequently. And so even though this was a family laptop and it was bought for multiple people to use, I kind of just used it a lot more and it kind of became mine. And I did use it for years to come after it was bought. Up until around 2012 is when I stopped using it, because in that year I upgraded to another laptop, and I've made multiple videos in the past about that laptop that are up on my channel, so if you're interested, you can check them out if you'd like. So with this laptop, after having it for that many years, there's of course some issues like the hinge at the left here that's broken. And also the insert key is missing on the keyboard, but that isn't so much of an issue since right above we have a really nice touch bar that lets us control the volume, skip the next track, pause and play music if you're listening to it on here. And just below the keyboard we of course get a premium trackpad, allowing us to make accurate moves with the mouse. And if we take a look over on the side of the laptop, we have also a, I'm not quite sure, but we do have it. And like most laptops of the time, we get a DVD drive, which is really handy. Also included is an S-video port and then 2 USB ports. And just over to the front of the laptop, we have an SD card reader, which is a really nice addition. And just right next to that, we have 1 microphone input and 2 line-out headphone jacks. And just on over to the left of the laptop, we have our FireWire port, a HDMI port, 1 modem port, a Ethernet port, and I will in the future clean this computer. I know it looks pretty disgusting in the ports right now, but that'll be for another video when I go and restore this thing completely and not have it look like a mess afterwards, hopefully. So bear with me, I know the computer kind of looks a little gross, but it'll change in the future. Moving on though, we have also a VGA port, so if you want to use this instead of the HDMI for like a second monitor, you got some options. And then we also have 2 more USB ports. One of them though is being used for the mouse that I have connected to the computer. And then of course where we plug in our power. And just looking up from there, we can see a better look of where the hinge is broken on this laptop. Not looking too hot, but you know what really matters is to see how well this thing can game. So to start off the benchmarking, we of course have to bring out a classic here, GTA San Andreas, and we'll be able to load this game up on our handy disk drive, and now we can see what kind of powerhouse this Dell Inspiron really is. But before we do that, we of course have to see the specs inside the laptop. So for the processor, we have an Intel Pentium T2370, which is a mobile dual-core processor, 2 cores and 2 threads, with the base frequency of 1.73 GHz, 1 MB of L2 cache on the PPGA 478 socket. And we have a hefty 2 GB of DDR2 RAM running in dual channel at a frequency of 266 MHz. And of course, since this thing wasn't made for gaming, there is no graphics card that is inside this. Instead, we're going to be using the Intel graphics that's inside the processor, which from my research is apparently an Intel GMA X3100, and the core clock on the integrated graphics here is going to be 500 megahertz. Not too impressive on the numbers there, but I'm still interested to see how well this thing can perform. So hopping into the game here, we're going to be playing at 640 by 480p. Visual effects are of course going to be on low. Draw distance is all the way down to the lowest that we can get it, and anti-aliasing will be turned off as well. So driving down the street here, you can see we're getting an average of around 20 FPS, dipping down into 18. But as more of the map starts loading up, you can see we do drop down pretty significantly. And so I wanted to try the same street, but with the frame limiter on, and I thought I might have done something, but it just is given around the same performance. As you can see, we dip down into 15 and then it starts picking up again, but it's just a bit too all over the place to really call this playable, unfortunately. If we were able to at least get somewhere a little over 20 FPS, I would say it's about doable, but with this FPS drop that we're getting, it just makes it a little bit too hard to play, at least in my opinion. So just for fun, I wanted to see how this would run with everything maxed out, so I put the draw distance up all the way, visual effects are all the way at very high, anti-aliasing is is still off. I don't know why I left it off. And then we're going to be playing at the laptop's screen resolution, which is 1280 by 800. And now with those settings in, you can see we basically cut our FPS almost in half as we're dipping down into 7, 8 FPS. But once things start loading up on the world, you can see that we're going at around what we had before with the FPS, running at like 17, 18. And now I'm going to be driving over to the pier where there's going to be a lot less things, if I can make it there. And when we're over here, everything starts getting back to normal. You can see we're at like 29 FPS since there's nothing on our screen, but once we turn around and look at the city again, we go back down to 9. So if you're going to be playing GTA San Andreas and just looking out at the ocean from the pier, I would highly recommend this laptop. So the next game that we're going to be looking at here is Max Payne 2. Running around outside, you can see the FPS is not looking so great, but once we go into a place with less on screen, it goes up into almost 30 FPS. And just running around the building here, you can see it bounces all over the place from almost 50 and then it goes to 30. It's a really inconsistent FPS that we're getting on this, which is basically the theme of how it went playing Max Payne on this laptop. Never really does stay too consistent. Like in this gunfight here, we start off at 40 FPS, but once everybody starts shooting guns, it drops down into 15, which makes trying to play the game not that easy to do. Next on the testing here, we're going to be trying on Half-Life 2. We have all our settings low and we're going to be playing at 640 by 480p again. So hopping out of the train here, you can see the FPS that we're getting is not the most playable. And we're seeing the same thing just like in Max Payne, where if there's an area with little going on, you're gonna get some pretty good FPS, but most games that people play are not just empty hallways and rooms with nothing in them. So when you get to an area like this is when you see the FPS really drop down to its lowest. So unfortunately, when you get to an area like this, which is gonna exist, it's just not going to be playable. Now, of course, it is still manageable, and we're not just getting 1 FPS here. It still technically could be played if you didn't have any other computer and there was no other option, which is basically what happened in 2008 for me, so it could be done. Now taking a look at some Counter-Strike Source. This gameplay is only going to be in a single player server just because I couldn't join any, but the average here is going to be between 20 to sometimes 30 FPS when we're inside walking around. And even for only 17 to 20 FPS, it felt really a whole lot choppier than other times that I played a game at that FPS, so this game also unfortunately is not the most playable. And that brings us to the end of the video. So I hope you guys did enjoy checking out this laptop with me. If you did enjoy it, let me know by leaving a like on this video. And this won't be the last time that I'm going to be testing out some older laptops and computers like this. So let me know down in the comments if there's a specific game that you want to see me test on a video like this. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll talk to you in the next one. See ya.